We must like to give our praise and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Akafadash, Tabak, the elevate millstone, taught his truth, and who will will. Mighty Shalom to the Akim, teaching week in and week out in the four corners of the earth. Props on the downfall, Esau, Edom is the word of salvation of the Israelites, the hope to elect. The mighty Shalom to the believers on the four corners of the earth, staying rooted in his faith. So for this court lesson, I'm going to go into how Yahweh Shai is returning the same way, he left. And that's by chariots, also known, in this current world as UFOs, but in its truth, we know them as IFOs, you know, identify identify flying objects, or the angels, you know. So let's get this lesson started. And we straight to the point, it might bring us some other precepts, might not. But whatever it is, according to the spirit, I'm gonna bring it out. All right, this is Acts 1, starting at verse 9. It says, when he had spoken these things, while they beheld, he was taken up, and a cloud received him out of their sight. You know, so what does this cloud represent? It's representing, the chariots, which which the Heavenly Father's armies, ride upon. His armies is the angels. You know, he's known as the Lord of Hosts, Salaki. And the vehicles that they ride in, from one realm to the next, is a UFO, which the world ignorantly calling, you know, but it's a heavenly vehicle. It could go from one realm to the next. It could go to the heavenly realm, heaven, or the spiritual realm, or it can go into the terrestrial plane, you know, Earth, or whatever planet it is. It says the cloud received him, so he went up. He got beamed up, you know, by his ride. You know, he got beamed up by the angels, to go to the heavenly Father. Verse 10, it says, while they looked steadfastly toward heaven as he went up, for it was in the sky, behold, two men stood by them in white apparel. So that as they were looking, two angels pulled up, you know, beside them. It says, verse 11, which also said, ye men of Galilee, why stand ye gazing up into heaven? This same Yahushua, which is taken up from you into heaven, shall so come in like manner as ye have seen him go into heaven. So the same way he left, you know, it's the same way he's gonna come back. He's gonna come back and in his fullness, in his fullness of his glory. You know, I'm gonna get that real quick. Uh, you know, going into him. This is going into him. It's going into him not meeting, you know, this word as a man. Going into his fullness of his glory. His heavenly body. You know, let's start at verse 1. Isaiah 47:1. Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground. There is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans, but thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate. You know, because this place, America, has never been touched. You know, this place, you know, sits as a queen. Sits as a queen amongst this whole world. You know, being delicate. Having all the dainties. America is known for being flashy. As a people. Brash. You know. But when Yahushua comes back, he's gonna put them at a lower state, you know, especially Esau, he's gonna put the whole world, under our subjection, but he's gonna have Edom, you know, back in that lowly place. It says, take the millstones and grind meal, uncover the locks, make bare the leg, cover the thigh, pass over the rivers. Thy nakedness shall be uncovered, so America's deep, dark secrets, the things that they do, is going to be uncovered. And how is it being uncovered? Through the Lord's prophets as well, as the whistleblowers, you know, the media outlets, the, the, the wickedness that they pull off in this world, it's not it's not so secret anymore. And a lot of things have been coming out, We got people going on podcasts, they got whistleblowers, and they got, us. Well, I'm one of the Lord's prophets, but the Lord has prophets, prophesying the downfall of this place, you know. It, it says, thy nakedness shall be uncovered, yeah, thy shame shall be seen. I will take vengeance, and I will not meet thee as a man, because when he came down, in the previous, in the flesh, previously, you know, he was in his flesh, even though he still has spiritual power, you know, he didn't show his power, but the Lord raised him up, put him on his right hand side, to be his right hand man, and to be king. He got his full glory, now he's come to take the spoils of his rulership, you know. He's gonna fully put his foot down, and show that he is the king of this universe. It says, as for our Redeemer, Yahweh Bashem Yahushua of hosts is his name, the Holy One of Israel. Let's get another precept. This was Salakia. This was it. Going into the cloud representing the chariot. It's Exodus 40, starting at verse 34. It says, then a cloud covered the tent of the congregation, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. And Moses was not able to enter into the tent of the congregation because the cloud abode thereon, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. So the Lord pulled up in the chariot. I get another precept as well. The Lord put up in the chariot, above the tabernacle, in front of Moses, and our people seen it, you know. It says, when the cloud was taken up from over the tabernacle, the children of Israel went onward in all their journeys. But if the cloud were not taken up, then they journeyed not till the day that it was taken up, So whenever we went somewhere, the chariot followed us as protection, a cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. It says, for the cloud, the Lord was upon the tabernacle by day, and fire was on it by night, in the sight of all the house of Israel throughout all their journeys. Exactly. So that was a vehicle of protection, for us, during the wilderness or in the wilderness, you know. Just get another precept. Give me 1 second. Um, Numbers 12. You can start up to get the gist of the conversation going on between the Lord, Moses, Aaron, and Miriam. Let me see where I'm gonna start at. You can start verse 4. And the Lord spake suddenly unto Moses, and to Aaron, and to Miriam, Come out, ye three, unto the tabernacle of the congregation. And they three came out. So the Lord pulled up in the chariot, and he told them to come out of the congregation, you know. And the Lord came down in the pillar of the cloud and stood in the door of the tabernacle and called Aaron and Miriam, and they both came forth. And he said, Hear now my words. If there be a prophet among you, I, the Lord, will make myself known unto him in a dream, just like in a vision, and will speak unto him in a dream. My 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 servant Moses is not so, who is faithful in all my house. With him will I speak mouth to mouth, even apparently, and not in dark speeches. And the similitude of the Lord shall he behold. Wherefore then were you not afraid to speak against my servant Moses? So they were speaking, behind Moses' back, you know, but the Lord pretty much saying like, hey, Moses my man, you know, and y'all are under him, so respect him. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against them. He departed, and the cloud departed from off the tabernacle. And behold, Miriam became leprous, white as snow, and Aaron looked upon Miriam, and behold, she was leprous. So the Lord judged Miriam, because she was talking, and not turning the side of her neck, going against Moses, because the woman that he was with. But the whole point of this priesthood that I brought out was we were pulled up in a chariot, as a whirlwind, as a whirlwind, you know, and came to talk to Moses, Miriam, and Aaron. You know, there's so many more precepts that I could bring out. You know, um, I could get the one in second Esdras. Let's get that one in second Esdras, because this chariot is likened to a mountain. You know, because it's different similitudes that the chariots were likened to. You know, let's get this. It says second Esdras 13:6. But I beheld him low, and he had great himself a great mountain, and he flew up upon it. So just like I said, this mountain, you know, is the chariot of the Lord. And this is the vehicle that Yahweh Shah is coming back on, with the thousands of angels, you know. It says, But I would have seen the region or place whereout the hill was graven, and I could not, So just like the movie Independence Day, that giant UFO, you know, that covered the whole sky that you couldn't see the region about it, You couldn't see the outline. All you seen was just a giant UFO, a giant machine, flying above the earth. It says, And after this I beheld, and lo, all they which gathered together to subdue him was so afraid, and yet there's fight, you know. So this is going into the Lord coming back in his vengeance and not meeting, the earth as a man. But this fight is going into World War III, you know, uh Michael and his angels fighting against Satan and his angels, you know, Michael and his angels being the angel Michael, and the angels fighting against, Esau, Edom and his fighter jets or his armies, you know. It says, And lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand nor held sword, nor any instrument of war, but only I saw that sent out of his mouth as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast off sparks and tempests. to the mouth, just going into the opening or the bottom of the chariot. You know, we all seen pictures, or drawings, the bottom of a chariot, has the opening, where a laser beam comes out of. And that's exactly what it's describing right here. The mouth being that circular uh, opening underneath the chariot, either to let somebody down, having a like an escalator type, like a stair type thing, platform to walk up or walk down of, you know, to beam someone up, to rescue or deliver them, or, to let off, vengeance and let off violence with you know, the laser beam that comes forth out of it. Get to the last verse. After I get three more verses, it says, and they were all mixed together, the blast of fire, the flaming breath, and the great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude which was prepared to fight, and burned them up, every one, so that upon a sudden of innumerable multitude nothing was to be perceived, but only dust and smell of smoke. When I saw this, I was afraid. So even though they did fight, they couldn't put up no real fight against the Lord and his angels. You know, there's two realms going against each other, and the spiritual realm is far more greater and far more stronger, than this fleshly realm, this earthly plane. You know, afterward saw I the same man come down from the mountain and call unto him another peaceable multitude, you know, that's going into the Lord, delivering us, you know, the hopeful elect. Verse 13, there came much people unto him, whereof some were glad, the hopeful elect, some were sorry, the two-thirds, you know, as well as the heathens, that's going to be destroyed or put into servitude, which is going to keep going. It says, and some of them were bound, and others some brought of them that were offered. Then was I sick through great fear, and I awakened and said, Thou hast showed thy servant these wonders from the beginning, hast counted me worthy that thou shouldest receive my prayer. Yeah, so the ones that it says in the third line of the 13th verse, it says, and some of them were bound. Yeah, that goes into, you know, the rulers of this place, the kings, the queens of this place, the politicians, for the Lord sees fit to be bound and to be certain and be in servitude underneath them, that they're not destroyed, you know. So Lord willing, a good lesson was edifying to the flock, whoever may be listening to this. I'd like to give our praise, honor, glory unto Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Hashem Kakodash, divine to the prophet of the great millstone, and another mighty shalom to the believers, as well as the brothers teaching week in, week out. Shalom, shalom, Kwame Sharala, and above all. So